everyone, welcome back to the Homebody Haven podcast. I'm your host, Esprit, and this is a show all about love, but at the root, self-love. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk about disrupting the pattern as a path to falling back in love with yourself. So when we have these moments where we're feeling disconnected from ourselves, maybe we're going through like a argument or disagreement with a friend, with a partner, stress at work, just something that is sort of throwing you off your game and you're feeling a little anxious, a little worried, a little insecure, a little uncomfortable, or you're just feeling kind of stuck where you are, interrupting the pattern or falling out of the loop of your typical day-to-day activities or movements is going to make a huge difference in how you look at your life, how you pattern your days, and ultimately how you express self-love and self-care. Now, in a previous episode, I talked about finding rituals and routines. So this might sound a little contradictory if you're like, well, I should stick to a particular set of rituals and routines to make myself feel more beautiful, more attractive, more magnetic, more successful, more exciting, more whatever it is that you're wanting, right? But when you interrupt the pattern, this isn't all the time, right? I do think it's important to have kind of an expected pattern to your day where there's things that you look forward to that are actually fueling you. But I do think that there's also benefit in kind of shaking the table a little bit. So if you typically, if we look at working out, because I've been getting back into the gym and moving my body, and today I interrupted the pattern. Typically I'll go to the gym and I lift weights, might warm up or cool down on the treadmill or the Stairmaster, stay there for maybe about an hour or so, and then I go home. And that's my workout for the day. And I feel good. I feel strong. I move my body. I sweat a little bit, listen to some good music. I feel good. Interrupting the pattern for me looked like going to an Orange Theory class this morning with my cousin. And if you've ever been to Orange Theory or know anything about them, it's a lot of cardio. It's very high intensity. Like, it's encouraged to get your heart rate up, to sweat, to really move and push yourself, not beyond your limits, but to push yourself and get a really good cardio-based workout in with some additional circuit weight training. And that is very different than how I typically will train and work out, and it's very different than what I typically enjoy doing. But I had an opportunity to go to one of the classes for free, and I went with her, and I really enjoyed it. It was way earlier than I typically go to the gym or work out. It was a completely different pattern. It's a group class. There's loud music. It's high intensity. There's a lot of cardio. You're lifting weights. You're moving in circuits. You're going from station to station. Completely different. I feel so good. One, because there's additional blood flow and endorphins and everything else that happens with working out. But also, I changed up the pattern. So the things that are normally on my mind in the morning couldn't be on my mind, right? Any worries or concerns or anxieties or things that I'm like keeping an eye out for, I couldn't focus on those. And so now my mind is in this clear space where I now look forward to getting back into my normal routine and my normal ritual. Like, switching it up one day a week even makes such a big difference. And this also comes from if you're in a space of maybe feeling a little bit depressed and a little sad or a little anxious or just a little uncomfortable in your body, in your life. Let's say you typically spend your days after getting off work, or if you have a day off, just bed rotting, right? You're just laying in bed, scrolling on your phone, in the dark, under the covers. Just taking one little step to maybe move from your bed to the couch, a small step, right? You're still under a blanket. You still might be scrolling on your phone, but there might be more light coming through your living room, right? So you're getting a little bit more light. You can open up the windows, get a little bit more fresh air. Maybe you can turn on the TV. That way you're not like staring at your screen. Maybe you invite a friend over, so now you guys are both sitting on the couch. You're talking, you're socializing. You get up and make yourself a meal instead of popping something in the microwave or heating up yesterday's dinner's leftovers. Maybe we try and make a little bit more of a complicated meal. We're spending more time standing up. We're keeping our mind busy by chopping up some onion and garlic and peppers and, cooking whatever it is that you want, and just giving a little bit of different time and attention to your normal day-to-day pattern. All right, so pop in the comments down below. What are some ways that you can kind of shift the pattern, right? And kind of interrupt the normalcy of life, right? We get very comfortable with those routines and rituals that we mentioned before, and a lot of those really do fill us. They make us feel more connected to ourselves. We're giving some more attention and love to ourselves or to our business, or our job or our friends and family. So these routines are healthy, but switching it up a little bit and saying yes to things that you might typically say no to, or saying no to things that you might typically say yes to, that's also a big thing. Makes you feel a little bit closer to yourself. And especially the saying no to things that you would normally say yes to, because that typically comes into setting boundaries that maybe people aren't used to you setting. Kind of standing up for yourself at a time that you might let yourself kind of fall back or silence your own voice just to appease or make other people comfortable. And when you do that, it does make it creates a little discomfort potentially for the people around you, but they now know they can't automatically expect you to be there, at every little thing, or expect you to always say yes. They now have to think, oh, okay, well, maybe they're busy, or I'll ask, are they available, versus having this expectancy that you're always going to be there, you're always going to show up, you're always going to be available. And it can be very, very uncomfortable, but I think when we put ourselves in not extremely uncomfortable positions, but in a position that is a little unfamiliar, it literally rewires our brain. It changes our perception of the world. It shifts our perception of the people around us. It shifts our perception of ourselves, which ultimately is reflected outward, right? When we're more confident, when we're more sure, when we're comfortable setting boundaries, we're less affected and reactive emotionally to things. We're able to, one, keep a calm, safe presence inside of our bodies, but also that's reflected outwards. People feel less anxious around you and less concerned and worried about your emotional well-being and your emotional state. And that creates just a more even space in an environment, right? It's not your responsibility to monitor how other people react in the environment. You can only do that for yourself. So if normally you say yes to everything, try saying no to some things. If normally you say no to everything and you'd rather just, stay at home and kind of shelter in place for life, maybe saying yes to more things. It will surprise people. I remember my friends, I'm a homebody, hence the name of the show. I love to be home. I'm one of those people who loves to be cuddled up in my bed or on the couch. I just like being cozy and comfortable. I don't love to drive around everywhere and find parking and then go out and it's sweaty, da da da. But recently, I would say in the last few years, I've been better at saying yes to things or being available to things, where normally my friends, if they put in a group message, oh, I'm going to go out to this lounge or this bar, I'm going to grab a bite to eat here, and it's not something that we've already planned. It's like very impromptu. Normally I would say, well, I'm in for the night, I'll see you guys another time. But more recently, not every time, but more recently, I've been saying, okay, well, I can put some clothes on, I can get dressed and meet you there, or we can ride together, or we can go out here, we can have a girls' night here. I'm a lot more flexible and open with my time than I have been years and years prior, where my friends knew, they're like, oh, Spree has a threshold. She's not going to want to do, 2 or 3 things at one night. If it's too late, she's probably not going to leave her house. I think there's still moments where they're like, I don't know if this Spree's going to go. But there are more moments where I say, you know what, yeah, I will. And I always have a good time. It's always a night filled with laughter and jokes and connection, and I feel good, and I'll see other people out that I haven't seen in a long time. And it's creating memories, and it feels good to say yes at times where I might have normally said no. And then on the other hand, there are a lot of times now where I say no, where I used to say yes. And that usually showed up with people expecting me to always be available, to always be willing to kind of ride along. And sometimes I do still, but I now sometimes have the ability to say, I don't really have time for that, or I'm not able to make that, or I really don't want to. I was hoping to do this instead. And at first it was very uncomfortable. At first it's uncomfortable to say no to things that you normally say yes to. But interrupting that pattern one, puts other people in a place where they're a little bit more considerate, but it also puts you in a place where you can set a boundary and actually observe and take awareness of, do I actually want to do this thing? Do I actually want to go here with them? Do I want to make myself available, or would I rather work on, something pertaining to my business, or film, or take a nap, or go work out, or, make a meal myself? It gives me options and choices for myself. And I think that it's a great thing that people should start employing into their lives. And I think that where this centers back to self-love and self-care is you're respecting your own boundaries. You're asking yourself before automatically saying yes to other people, am I actually available? Is this something that I really want to do? Or is there another alternative that feels more enjoyable or more fulfilling? And I think it's important to find balance, right? You don't want to shut everyone out because you're only saying yes to you. But it makes it easier to find that balance the more that you do it, right? So that's in communication with the people around us. Now, I think when we get back to those rituals and routines, interrupting the pattern doesn't even have to be anything big, right? Instead of going on your typical 2-mile walk around the park, maybe now you go on like a 3-mile walk around your neighborhood. You're going to see different faces. You're going to see different things. You might find a new restaurant that opened up, a week ago, especially if you live in a city like Charleston where there's a new restaurant, bar, or venue or retail space popping up every week. Changing the walk that you do, your hot girl walk or whatever it is, changing that to a different route, a different length, a different time of day, you now are seeing the world through a way different lens, right? Switching up the workout class that you go to, changing up your hair products or your skincare products, even something like that. You might notice, ooh, I have a different glow, or my hair smells different, or people start to notice little different things about you. If you're typically someone that wears the same kind of colors, the same kind of style, maybe one day you switch it up. It's not to say you change your whole personal style, but one day at a particular event, just change up something a little bit differently, and people might be like, oh, I've never seen you in that color. That looks really nice. Or I've never seen you with that kind of shape of a shirt or with that pattern. You look really great. And it invites new conversation. And it changes up that monotony of the day where things can feel very comfortable, but then become a little bit boring. And in the space of business even, I have the podcast, I've got a bodywork business, and I see clients for like one-to-one self-love support, right? And watching clients shift when it comes to some of the practices that we introduce in a session, like a method acting practice or a letter writing practice, where it just changes up their normalcy. It changes how they see the world, changes how they move through the world, how they hold their bodies, right? We move through the 5 channels of awareness, which I have a video on that as well. And they start to just notice different things about their body and their state of being and their state of mind, and you can shift it in real time. And it changes everything, for good and bad, right? It can make your mood more anxious and a bit more high alert because you're just changing up your normalcy, and your body and your subconscious mind are actively rejecting it because it feels uncomfortable. But eventually it starts to feel like the norm, and it feels like a welcomed new version of yourself stepping into a space. Like for me, I wouldn't consider myself a shy person, right? But I have had a difficulty going places by myself. Not necessarily grabbing something to eat by myself or going to the movies, but going to a public social outing. Even if I'm meeting friends there, going by myself, if I get there before them, normally I would be very quiet. I would go sit by the bar, grab a drink, get on my phone, and like count down the minutes until one of my friends is like, oh, I'm outside, I'm parking. And then I would, okay, great, I won't be alone. And now this is disrupting the pattern a little bit. When I walk into a space, I know I'm going to be there by myself for maybe, 15, 20 minutes until someone gets there. I will still sit at the bar, grab myself a drink, kind of observe, people watch. But if there's someone sitting next to me and I like what they're wearing, I'll compliment them. And they usually receive the compliment well. And then it might turn into a conversation. I'll ask their name, I'll introduce myself. I'll ask why they're there or who they're here with, how they heard about it, and then we just start having a conversation, and then it turns into, oh, what do you do? Oh, okay, oh, wow, that's really cool. And then it becomes this exchange, and by the time I look up, my friends are there, or whoever I was meeting is there, and time has passed, and it didn't feel like an hour. Sometimes 20 minutes can feel like 20 hours when you're just sitting there waiting for something to happen. But when you stop waiting for it to happen, you just engage with the environment that you're in, especially if you're not someone who typically does that, the time moves so quickly. And the time that you're spending now is not filled with anxiety and wondering and waiting and checking your phone and just kind of twiddling your thumbs. It's spent engaging and communicating and having a good time. And it's not to say you can't go somewhere by yourself and just spend time by yourself. I think that's absolutely healthy to do. But if that's your norm and it's your comfort, you try switching it up. You might meet a new friend. You might meet, a new interest of some kind. You might find a new business that you'd like to patron, and you now met the owner or employee there. You just never know. You never know what's going to happen. And I think that's the beauty also of switching up your routine. You never know who you're going to run into, what kind of conversation you're going to have, what kind of impact it's going to make in your life. And it feels uncomfortable at first to step outside of your comfort zone, to take a different direction, to do something that feels not like yourself. But I want you to ask yourself, if there's ever been a time that you've taken a risk, taken a step, done something a little different, has it ever really not worked out? Has it just crashed and burned and you're like, oh, I'm never going to put myself out there again. I'm never going to do something different. I'm always going to do what I normally do. Because for me personally, and everyone else that I know, other people that I know who are like, you know what, I always do this, I'm going to do something a little different. It always kind of works out. It always works out in your favor, whether that means it's removing something from your life or it's welcoming something new. It's never really a moment where things have crashed and burned and that was the worst decision I could have ever made. I'll never do that again. I don't think most people have that as an end result of trying something new, saying yes where they should have said no, saying no where they should have said yes, going to a different location than they typically do, changing up the time of day in which they work or go to the gym or call up a friend or whatever it is. Stepping outside of your normal routine, within reason, right, can invite such beautiful new things into your life, and it helps to adjust your perception of the world so that you no longer feel like you're stuck in this loop or in this expectancy of, well, this is just how my day is going to go all the time. This is how my day is going to go. You can switch it up a little bit, and it actually brings you closer to yourself because it invites you to new things that maybe you didn't know that you enjoyed or you didn't think that you would enjoy, because we're always evolving, we're always changing, we're always growing. And so there's an acceptance and reacceptance of ourselves that just happens over time. But it's a really beautiful process. So I encourage any of my anxious or introverted or shy listeners or viewers, listeners if you're not watching on YouTube, to just try something different, something that feels small and insignificant because it can feel really big for you. Making a decision or taking a direction that feels maybe a little uncomfortable and feels like something that you would normally shy away from, try and take a step and do it. You just never know what can happen. I won't promise, but I can, like, close as possible to promise you that it'll be a good shift, and it'll bring you a little bit closer to yourself, and it'll teach you something new about yourself. It's always a lesson. So I encourage you to do that. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening as well if you are on any of the listening platforms. But if you are, make sure you head on over to YouTube and subscribe, comment, like, and share out this video and any of the others. Make sure you watch the other episodes as well. I make new videos every Thursday at 11 a.m. And I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.